New York City landlords actually could soon be prohibited from looking into the history of prospective tenants.
So this week, the City Council will hold public hearings on a controversial new bill that would actually stop criminal background checks on new tenants. Landlords are opposing the bill. They say their tenants don't want to share buildings with former criminals, but advocates, including Mayor Adams, is supporting it. Joining us this morning, Brooklyn City Councilwoman Ina Vernikoff. Nice to have you back. You are against this bill.
Correct.
Okay. You want the background checks?
We need the background checks.
Okay. And Stanley Richards with the Fortune Society, you are for the bill because you think that it's about time.
That's right.
Okay, so how does this work exactly, Councilwoman? Because NYCHA is exempt from the bill?
Yeah, so the bill actually, right now, as it stands, well, it's not, it hasn't passed, but the bill they're proposing right now has several exemptions. One of them is a sex offender registry. So if somebody is a registered sex offender in New York State, they would be allowed to check that and discriminate against those. However, if it's out of state, if someone's out of state, that's not exempt. And also two-family homes and one-room apartments are also exempt, except that the landlords have to actually occupy the apartments in order to be exempt.
Stanley, this sounds a little confusing. And it sounds like there's too many caveats.
It's really simple. I think what Councilwoman Vernikoff just said is landlords can check the sex offender registry and discriminate. What the Fair Chance for Housing bill does is stops landlords from discriminating. We have over 750,000 people in New York City with criminal convictions, 11% of our population. There is no evidence that shows a criminal conviction determines whether someone will pay their rent, someone will be a good neighbor, and whether communities will be safe. We have to stop demonizing and perpetuating collateral consequences for people with convictions. They serve their time. How do we bring them back into our community? How do we give them a place to live, a job, so that they could build new lives?
Yeah, and I understand that this is also going against recidivism. Like, you want them to get back into housing so they're not back on the streets.
Absolutely.
But there is a question of saying NYCHA is allowing this to happen and will continue to allow this to happen in terms of checking any minor or felony offense, and you get right off the list.
No,
so,
let me clarify that. What landlords can do by federal law, if they receive federal funding like NYCHA, they have a couple of exclusions. One is lifetime sex offender registry. So if you're on the lifetime sex offender registry, you're not eligible for public housing. Two, if you have been convicted of producing methamphetamine on public housing property, those are the bans. And what we are saying with the Fair Chance for Housing is an opportunity for New York to lead this country in how we bring people back from incarceration after they paid their dues and help them reintegrate into society. We have over 35 million children in the United States who have a parent who is incarcerated.
Yeah.
We are talking about generational isolation and generational consequences. We need to stop it. We can be better than that.
Ina, let me ask you about this, though, because there are situations where a parent, single parent, may have been convicted of a crime 5 years prior with a kid, and it's hard for them to get housing. Like, how do you manage and cope with that? How do you talk to that parent saying, we're going to give you a fair chance?
And I think we have to understand that this is not the conversation. This bill is not about giving second chances. It's about completely eliminating the landlord's or property owner's right to even check and see what kind of a criminal background does this person have. So we can actually have a murderer and someone in current criminal proceedings moving in next door, and nobody will know about it. The landlord won't know about it, the tenant won't know about it. And just, the appearance of passing a bill like that, people already don't feel safe in our city, and they're gonna feel even more unsafe. And, I do appreciate the work that you do trying to, bring the people who have committed some crimes before to integrate them back into society, but we shouldn't put that burden on a small property owner, like a single mom who is making her living by renting her property. We shouldn't put that burden on New Yorkers who just want to feel safe and shouldn't have to live next door to someone who's committed serious crimes.
And I would encourage you to work toward the solution of helping people come back and building communities. And helping people come back is about eliminating discrimination. The National Institute of Justice funded a project by the American Bar Association that looked at the country, and they found 38,000 statutory barriers for people with convictions, including employment, housing, voting rights, and access to benefits. In this country, when is enough enough?
You know what's curious?
When do we stop getting judged by the worst moment in our lives?
I
None
agree.
of us want to be
Everybody
like that.
wants a second chance or a third chance, or how many chances it is until you get back on your feet again and find the right road. But Stanley, to me, what's curious is that NYCHA, where most likely somebody who's coming out of prison is going to go to NYCHA housing, and they're exempt from this.
They're not.
They have caveats.
The same
that
caveats
the small
that's
private
in the fair
landlord
chance.
does not have.
Because the state registry, the sex offender registry, only applies to New York State.
And
if
anybody who
out
comes
of
into
state,
this state that's on a sex offender registry is required to register. So the New York State Sex Offender Registry will capture anybody who's living here. This is what I'm talking about. Like, we have to get out of demonizing and trying to marginalize, and we have to lean in with each other, because at the end of the day, we can have safer
I agree,
communities.
but shouldn't you believe if you're a landlord, you should have some kind of regulations, be able to be like, I want the person that's best suited to be in the apartment that I lend
As a
out.
landlord, what I would anticipate that a landlord would want to know that you're going to pay your rent on time, that a landlord is going to know that you're not going to damage their property.
And also maybe
this bill does not preclude them from screening people, from checking their credit, from finding out whether or not they are tenant worthy. Doesn't do that. But all of the rhetoric around this bill wants people to think that this is about safety. It is not. We have 750,000 people with convictions in our communities today.
Well, listen, Stanley Richards, you make a great case. Fortune Society, Councilwoman Ina Vernikoff, you make a great case as well. It's before the City Council. The mayor says he's going to sign it if the bill is passed. So thank you so much.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.